what we did last time. I guess we discussed about JDK and GRE, and we have seen a very first program. Yes or no? Was that the discussion in the theory? Yes or no, guys? I'm waiting for your acknowledgement. So please give me the acknowledgement of about our learning. Calculator program. Okay, so it means I have. Is it in theory? Calculator program. I mean, I doubt. Like, yeah, that was in lab, right? I'm asking in theory. Okay, no worries. Let me show you the PPT. JSP scripting element. This is fourth semester, right? JSP scripting element you will learn in sixth semester. Maybe the slide title was wrong. This is fourth semester, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, fourth
Yeah.
semester.
So we would have not gone for sure for JSP scripting elements. So it's fine totally. I feel like, oh God, I guess my laptop is having little trouble. Okay, no worries. So meanwhile, let it restart again, and we will be discussing the things which are related to our last discussion. So before I begin today's session, can someone tell me what is JDK? What is JDK?
Java Development Kit.
What it does? What it does? Only full form will not give you the placement. So be sure you're learning everything correctly. Yeah, Gaurav, tell me. You have raised your hand.
Hello.
Yes, you are audible. Go ahead.
Uh,
Yeah.
JDK stands for Java Development Kit, and it's an implementation of Java platform and used for standard edition. And it
Okay.
also runs binary and Linux program.
Binary and?
Binary products that aims for the Java developers. Means that
Okay.
use Linux and Unix. Not Unix, Linux.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, fine, guys. It contains the GRE and JVM exactly path. And what is that? GRE and JDK. Can you tell me, like, what is that? GRE and JDK. So, guys, I'm trying to connect Java runtime environment. What it does? Java runtime environment. What it does? What it does? GRE and JVM are used to run the program. Exactly. So what it contains is, it contains the various commands or executables which can compile and execute your Java program. So all the supporting library and all other needed things are there, right? And we can use all those things to develop our Java program, right? So we started our discussion, and we said that Java is an language as well as a platform, and JDK is a software which is used for the compilation and execution of your Java program, right? And we said that language specification of Java, that is syntax rules, are given over docs.oracle.com J2AC, right? And we said there are application program interface, which is also known as the library, which contains the predefined classes and interfaces to develop the software using Java language, right? And we said there are three different editions of Java: Java Standard Edition, Java SE, Java Enterprise Edition, Java EE, and Java Micro Edition. And I said you that we are going to learn Java SE in our current discussion. Along with that, we learn about JDK, that it is used to have as a Java development tool, and it's a software which provides a set of programs which can be invoked from the command line, and we can compile and test the Java programs, right? And then we discuss the very first program. Yes or no? Do we discuss this? And I said you that class name and the file name should be same. For example, if my program name, my class name is class hello world, then my file name must be hello world.java, and it's case sensitive. Do we discuss this? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And along with that, we discussed that in your first program, the backslash are the comments, which are just for the readability, that has to do nothing with the functionality of your program. And we said every application in Java begins with the class definition. So the first line always will be a class, and inside that you will write your main method, right? And then we said system.out.println is used to print the string literal. And in to compile the Java program, we are using Java C filename.java, and to run it, we are running from the command prompt by typing the command Java filename. And we said main method in Java is having the keywords public static void main, which takes a string array as an argument, and where public is an access specifier, static is a keyword. So each and every word which is given in your main method's signature, it is got some meaning which is being given to your Java virtual machine, right? And when I'm saying static, it means that main method can be invoked without instantiating a class, or it means without creating an object, we can call the main method. We said main is return nothing. Sorry, void main means return nothing. So your main method is not going to return any value after execution, right? And main itself is a name of the Java main method, and it's a starting point from where your Java program starts the execution. And string args is stored as a command line argument, and it's an array of string type, right? So this is what we have learned in our last session. Now today we are going to learn how to take inputs, right? That's the today's discussion. We are going to focus about how to take input in the Java programs. So there are three ways. If you recall your C programming, how we were taking the input? Anyone? How we were taking the input in C program?
Using scanf.
Exactly. And we were using the control string. Do you recall that? We were using the control string. What is control string? Can anyone tell me? I'm asking you how we were taking the inputs, and you said using scanf. So scanf is a function, right? In Java, we will call it as a method. Okay, so when I want to take an integer input, what is the control string? What is the control string to take integer as an input? If you recall.
%d.
Yeah, exactly.
%d.
And D stands for? D stands for? We call it as a control string. Yeah, digit. %d. D stands for digit, used for integer. Right? We are talking about scanf is having control string, and %d means it is for integer. %c?
Character.
Single character, right?
Character.
Single character. %s?
String.
It's
String.
character. And %s is for string, which is mean collection or array of characters. So more characters are there, then we are going to use a string, %s. But if it is single, then we will use the %c. F for
Floating value.
value.
And what is LD?
Floating values.
Percentage LD?
Long integer.
Long double, right?
Long integer.
Long integer, long double, both of them uses the percentage D. So this is what we were using with the scanf, right? Now I'm discussing that if you want to take input, in Java, there are 3 different ways. In your C, you were having only single way using the scanf. But with your Java, you have 3 different methods. These methods are, you can take the input from the console. Console means the standard input device. You can take the input from the console using buffer reader class. That is the first method. Second method, you can take the input using scanner class. And I guess one of the batch has seen the scanner class uses. Which batch? I guess B. Batch B, we use the scanner class. Okay, batch C has used the scanner class, right? So what we can do is we can use, okay, B2, fine. So only A batch is remaining. So don't worry guys, today in, next time when I'll take an extra lab, because you missed a lab, right? Batch A. So I'm going to take an extra lab. During that, you will learn that. So scanner class, buffer reader class, and console class. Console class. These are the 3 ways to take the input, right? Using the console. So let us see one by one, starting with the very first method, taking input using buffer reader class. Buffer reader class was the classical method, or you can say very old method. And that's why it was, there with the JDK 1. Right now we are using JDK 8. We are using JDK 8. Even in the market, JDK 15, somebody has installed from your class, right? So when it was JDK 8, at that time we had buffer reader class, right? So this method is used by wrapping the system.in class in an input stream reader. So when I say I'm having a buffer reader class, basically we are using the wrapping of the code inside another method or another object, which is input stream reader, right? Which is input stream reader. So what we can do is we can take the input from the command line, right? But when we are doing that, somehow we are using the wrapping around input stream reader. So advantage is that this method is buffered for efficient reading. This input is buffered for efficient reading. We can do the reading very efficiently, but the problem is wrapping code is hard to remember. Wrapping code is hard to remember, right? But still, if you refer the literature, or if you see some of the websites which are there being used for the learning, they're still using the buffer reader class. It's not like that totally deprecated or not in use. It's not like that. Still we use the buffer reader class. So let us see how it can work. I'm showing you the demo of buffer reader class. Let me go to the programs, unit 1. Don't worry, I'm going to upload all these programs in your e-content, so you can learn it. You can just execute and you can learn all those things. So if I want to use buffer reader class, the first thing which I required is I need to have java.io.bufferreader class. And as I said, buffer reader class is wrapper around input stream reader. So I required java.io.input stream reader also. Input stream reader also. Now, my program and my file name is buffer reader demo. So I have taken a class, public class buffer reader demo. Inside that I have a public static void main method, which may throw the IO exception. Now, exceptions are the runtime errors, right? If somehow we are not able to take the input, it will give us an error. So errors are errors which are occurred because of the input-output values are missing, or because of the incompatibility of input values. We call such errors as an IO exception. We call it as an IO exception. Fine. Right now what we are doing is we are going to see how to use buffer reader to take the input. So as I said, you need to import buffer reader. which is there in java.io.buffered reader. Make sure it is RED, buffered reader. B and R are capital. This is called camel case. I said you, right? When two words are there, this is the standard way to give name to the variables or classes. We call it as an identifier. If we have some interface or class or variable, what we will do is, if it is containing two words, we will keep the first letter as a capital. For example, buffered reader. Buffered is one word and reader is another word. So we'll keep B and R capital. Okay, right? Similar way, IO. We know that I is input, O is output. So I and O are capital. Exception means error, which is third word. So we have kept I, O, and E capital. You see second line, java.io.io exception, right? Similar way, we said your buffer reader class is using a wrapper input stream reader. So what we did is we have written input stream reader, inputs I, streams S, and readers R is capital. So what does it mean about by wrapping is, when you want to use buffer reader class, you will create an object, right? And how we will create an object? See, this is the standard way to create an object. We'll write class name, then we'll write object name. Now object name is like a variable. You can use any object name over here. Then we'll use the keyword new, and then we'll write class name and a method. I mean parenthesis, right? This way we can create an object, right? For example, if I have a class student, I'll give the name S, object name S is equal to new student. So this is called object creation. This is called object creation. So what I'm saying is buffer reader is a class. So if it is a class and if I want to use it, I need to create an object. So here we are creating an object, buffer reader, class name. The object name is reader. Suppose I don't want to use reader, I can use R also. That's fine because it's just an object name. Okay. So I have taken a buffer reader class, object name reader equal to new buffer reader. But as I said, it uses the wrapper. So again, we have to create an object of input stream reader. So we are writing new input stream reader in bracket system.in. System.in. Over here, system is your system object represents your entire system, means laptop or computer, whatever you are using, right? And .in stands for the input console. In our case, it is our keyboard, right? So to take the data using buffer reader, create an object of buffer reader class, and buffer reader class object can be created by writing buffer reader class object name equal to new buffer reader, new input stream reader in bracket system.in, right? So now we have this reader. Now we have this object reader, which is belonging to buffer reader class. Suppose I want to take user's name as an input. So what I'll say is I'll give a message to user, and the message which I want to give is I'm saying that system.out.println enter your name. Enter your name. And to read the data with the help of buffer reader class object reader, we have to use a method which is called read line. Again, read line, R is small, L is capital. Read line, R is small, L is capital. Don't do mistake in the capital and small, otherwise it will give you an error. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a variable string. String is a data type, right? String name is equal to reader dot read line. Over here, reader is the object name, right? And read line is the method of a buffer reader class. So whatever value I'll enter from the keyboard, it will be saved inside the variable name. Inside the variable name. So I'm just simply printing whatever value I have read with the help of read line method. So I'm writing system.out.println hello plus variable name. Is it clear? Is it clear? This is buffer reader class. Advantages, it is efficient. Disadvantages, what is the disadvantage? We have to write the wrapping code, right? So it is little hard to remember, not much hard, but little hard to remember. Okay, so now let us run this and see the program. What I did is I have taken import of java.io.bufferedReader, java.io.inputStreamReader, right? And then I have created a class and I am taking bufferedReader class object reader and then reading the class. So this is I have compiled and now I am running. So what it will do, it will just take an input and it will just print it. Should I use magnifier? So can you see this? Right? Is it clear, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is the first.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so this is the first way to take the input. Suppose I want to go with the second method. Second method is scanner class, right? So we can take the input using scanner class 2, right? So this is most preferred method because, this scanner class is giving you the clear-cut idea about which type of data type you are using. And if we are using some integer or float, it is giving you the clear idea about what are the parse primitive types. So whenever I say data types, there are two types. Let me go to that slide. Java data types, mainly data types specifies what type of data will your variable hold. So there are major two groups or two category. We call it as a primitive data type, such as byte, short, integer, long, float, double, boolean, and character, right? Along with that, we do have some non-primitive data type. Usually, primitive data types are known as basic data type. Basic data type. For example, byte is used to store the data bytes. Like packet, we know that network packets are in the bytes, right? So we can store the data as a byte type. Short is used to store the integer value with the lesser range. Integer, we know that signed and unsigned, right? -2, +2, or we can say 102, -32, whatever signed and unsigned numbers we want to save without precision. That is, after point, nothing is there. We call it as without precision. Then we'll use integer. But we know that integer is having the limit, right? It can store up till 2 bytes size it will occupy in the memory. So if we want to store the larger number, we'll go with the long. We'll go with the long. Then we have float. Float stores the number with precision. For example, if I want to calculate area of a circle, we know that equation is area equal to pi r square. So here pi is 3.14. So after precision, we have 1 and 4. So that's called float type of data type, where we have certain values after precision, right? So that type of values will store in the float. Double stores both like signed, unsigned, integer, and numbers with and without precision. But the range of storage is higher than the float. Along with that, over here you have a new data type, which is Boolean, which was not there with your C. C was not having Boolean. So Boolean is holding the values such as true or false. At times we required such values. So on and off, 0 and 1. So this is called Boolean data type, where only two values are possible, right? So usually true and false kind of values will store with the Boolean data type. And the last but not the least is about character. If you want to go with the single character from small a to capital, small a to small z, or capital A to capital Z, or any special symbol such as @ $, double quote, single quote, comma. So all these are called the character, right? Now, these are the basic data types. And when I say So that's why we call it as a primitive data type. But when I say non-primitive data types are usually can be the combination of any of the primitive data type. For example, string. We know that string is an array of characters and character is primitive data type. So many characters together forms a string. Similar way, arrays. Array, collection of data members which are sharing the same data type but holding the different data value. For example, in your class there are 70 students, so I can create an integer array of 70, size is 70, so index will be start from 0 to 69, and each and every array element will hold the different value, right? Your enrollment number or your roll number is the value, right? So arrays are also non-primitive data type because it can be developed or it can be used from the primitive data type. And similar way the class is, right? Because class contains the data members which can be of different type. For example, class student will have string name, integer age, right? Float result, float result, for example, percentage or CPI or SPI 6.9, 7.2, right? So float result, right? So all those together makes a class. So class is non-primitive data type. Now, we are moving back to our discussion and we are saying that when we have a scanner class is, the main purpose of the scanner class is to parse the primitive types and string using regular expressions, right? So it means that there are convenient method. Parsing means your Java is a strictly typed language, so data type must be exact when you are using that variable, right? So when I'm doing that, I need to make sure which type of methods I am using, right? So major advantage over here is it is convenient method to for parsing the primitive data types from the input. For example, if I want to go with the integer, I have to use next int. If I want to go with the float, I have to use next float. If I want to go with the single word, I have to use next. If I want to use a line of string, I have to use next line. If I want to take an Boolean input, I will write next Boolean. If I want to take double, I'll write next double, right? So we are being very much clear about the parsing or about the exact value being stored, which was not the case with your buffered reader. Fine. So that's the major advantage of your scanner class. So scanner class uses the regular expression that can be used to find the tokens. What is token? That we will see in the next discussion, like after a few minutes, right? But the major thing is the reading methods are not synchronized. You need to remember each and every time what is the type, and based on that we are choosing the function. So there are so many methods which you need to remember, and few of them we have discussed. Next byte, next short, next integer, next long, next line, next Boolean, next float, next double. Fine. But still, scanner method is going to be used widely in the in taking the input. Fine. Any question, any doubt up till now? I'm going to show you the demo how to use the scanner class. Every time when you are using some methods, for example, next int or next line to take a string as an input, we are going to use the object of scanner class, object.method name. So if I want to use integer, I'll write object name, that is, let us say s dot next integer, next int. So to use that method, we need to import the scanner class in our code, right? So let us see how. Over here, I have a scanner class demo. I'm going to take students data, your details such as your name, age, and salary. Let us suppose employee data we are going to take. So what we have done is we have taken java.util.star. Over here, if you don't want to take star, you can take scanner. You can take scanner, right? Because scanner class is there because we want to use the methods like next int, and method next int is defined inside the scanner class, right? So let us see. What I've done is I have taken a class, public class scanner demo, because each and every Java program start with the class definition. And as I want to use scanner object, I have import java.util, because scanner class definition is inside the package. We call this as a package. What is package? Package is collection of classes and interface. So when I'm saying import java.util.scanner, then util is a package where scanner is a class. It is written there. So it's like your library. You are calling your library over here in your program so that you can use the method. So that you can use the methods. Fine. So I have written a main method, public static void main. And now we are writing system.out.println, and we are saying user enter your details. Enter your details. Now to read this input, we are taking object of a scanner class. Mind well, here S of scanner is capital. So we are writing scanner in is equal to, this is the way we define the object, right? Class name scanner, object name in equal to new class name, and it takes system.in as an argument, where system is representing your computer system and in is representing your input console. Fine. As I said, object name can be anything. Suppose you want to write SC, that's fine, you can write. So wherever you are going to use the method, you are going to write it. So over here, instead of in, I have to write sc.next, right? Here also, next int, I have to write sc.next int. So let it make in only. So what we did, we imported the package, we created a class, we declared the main method, we given a message to user system.out.println and enter your details. And we created an object of scanner class. Scanner in is equal to new scanner system.in. And now we are asking user to enter the details. So we have written system.out.println, enter your name. Enter your name. Fine. And as name is a string value, right? So we have taken a variable string name is equal to in.next, where in is the object name of the scanner class. So we have written in.next, and we are printing it system.out.println name colon whatever user has entered. Then we are asking user to enter the age. We have written integer I is equal to in.next int. We are writing system.out.println age, and we are just displaying that integer I, which is storing the age of the user over here. So we have written plus I. Now we are asking user to enter the salary. So we say system.out.print, enter your salary. Salary could be any like higher value. So we have taken double D is equal to in.next double. So you can see the parsing of the data type. Here for string, we have used next. For integer, we have used next int. And for salary, we have used next double. Right? So we are being so much specific about parsing of the data. So we are writing system.out.println salary plus variable name D, which is holding our value of salary. Right? And finally, we are writing in.close. We are closing the object. Scanner object, we don't want to use more. So we are writing in.close, which will make your object no more available for the input. So we have written in.close. Up till now, anybody having any doubt, any questions? Anyone? Anyone having any questions, any doubt? Should I move forward? Okay. So let us compile and run. To compile, I'll write Java C. scanner demo. So I have to write Java C space scanner class demo dot Java. Okay. So once your program is compiled, you can write Java scanner class demo, that is your program name, and press enter. So you see it is giving me the first message, enter your details. It's asking me name, right? Asking me age, asking me salary. Okay. And it is displaying all the variables. So this is about scanner class. Any doubt? Any questions up till now? Anyone? Anyone having any question, any doubt? Should I move forward? Guys, I'm waiting for your acknowledgement. If you say yes, then and then I'll go ahead. Anjan, as I said, the major difference is buffer reader was introduced in JDK 1.0, right? So it is the older method. But scanner class is comparatively new. And in scanner class, we are being so much conscious about the parsing of the data type. So that's why we are giving we are being specific with the data type, which is not the case with the buffer reader. Fine. For example, for integer, we are writing next int. For float, we are writing next float. So we are very much specific, which is not the case with buffer reader. Is it clear, Anjan? That's the major difference. Otherwise, there is not much difference. Parsing is the major thing. Okay. So now, as Anjan is clear with his doubt, we are going with the third method, which is using the console class. Now, console class has been becoming a preferred way to read the user's input from the command line, right? We can use this method also to take the input, right? But the major thing over here, like it can be used for reading password like input without echoing character entered by the user, right? So whatever user is entering, it will be not echo back. It won't be given back to user. The major advantage over here is we can read the password kind of sensitive information because it is not echoing. Echoing means giving back, right? So this is very much efficient method for reading the sensitive information, right? And all the reading methods are synchronized. What is synchronization? That we will learn when we will learn about the thread life cycle and all in Java. So you just right now accept this point. At that time, I'll recall you again that discussion. Okay. And format string syntax also we can use. So we can also be the data type specific. But here the major disadvantage is it doesn't work in a non-interactive environment. It means that the console works only with the command prompt. If you are using some IDE, let us say you are using Eclipse or you are using NetBeans, in that case, console class will not work. It won't work with the, it does not work in a non-interactive environment. Fine. So that's why if we compare all three methods, scanner class is being used more, right? But as a beginner, you won't find any difference. And that's why you can go with anything if you are using the command prompt to execute your program. But if you are using Eclipse or NetBeans, then console class will not work in this non-interactive environment. Fine? Fine? Right? So let us see the demo console class, how it works. Again, to use it, we need to import it, right? But here, with this console class, there is no import required, right? So you can use directly with the system.console.readline. Can you see this? System.console.readline, right? So the major advantage is no import required. Whereas in buffer reader and scanner, you need to import. For scanner, you need to write import java.util.scanner semicolon, which is where S is capital. With buffered reader, you need to write import java.io.buffered reader, where B and R are capital. But when you want to go with the console, system.console, there is no import required. Fine. But the major disadvantage is it will not work with the non-interactive IDEs. That's the major disadvantage. So we are writing public class console class demo. We have taken a main method and we are asking user to give the input, enter your name, and we have taken a string variable to store the username. We say the string name is equal to system.console.readline. And finally, we are printing that system.out.println. We are just greeting the user by saying hey and the username. Fine. So no import required to use the console class method. You need to write system.console.readline. So let us just compile and run that program. The program name was console demo. So I'll write Java C console class demo dot Java, right? As there is no error, I'll write Java and the file name. It's asking me the name. Is it clear, everybody? Are you clear with the all
Yes.
three methods? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So we will mostly use the scanner class, but be sure that you are aware about all these three methods because this is Viva and interview question. In interview and Viva, this kind of basic questions could be asked. Like what are the ways by which we can take the input? So you need to answer like using the buffer reader class, using scanner class, and using the console class. When you are giving this answer, interviewer or Viva taker will take you one level up and they will ask like what is the difference. So each and every method is having its own advantages and disadvantages. For example, console class is not echoing back. So for the password and all, it's very good, but it will not work with the non-interactive environment, right? So that's the limitation. So you need to be clear with all these points. Okay. Along with that, we have seen what is Java data types. As I said, primitive data type and non-primitive data type. Now we are moving next and we are discussing about identifiers. So what is identifier? Can anyone tell me? You have learned C or C++? C, I guess, right? C++ you have not read, learned. Have you learned C++? C++ have
No,
you
ma'am.
learned? Yes. Okay, okay, no worries. What is identifier? Before that, let me give you this. This, I guess, you need to recall from your C. Can anyone tell me what is token? What is token? In a program, what is token? So you say smallest individual unit. Smallest individual unit of a program is known as token. Okay, the smallest individual unit of a program is known as token. For example, if I write a line system dot out dot println and I do parenthesis and I do semicolon, right? If I do this over here, if you see the single line, how many individual or smallest units are there? System, then this dot, then this out, then again dot, then we have print ln, and then we have semicolon. Then we have semicolon. If we are writing a program where we are creating or we are just calculating the area of a circle, so we'll say area of a circle is equal to 3.14 into r, where r is the radius, where r is a variable. So here if I separate it, the smallest individual unit of this line is float area equal 3.14, then this asterisk sign, then this r. These are the tokens. These are the tokens of a program, right? These are called the tokens. So when I say the tokens are the smallest individual unit of a program, we can identify token by the keyword Kisco. This is just for your remembrance, just to remember it easily. How we will remember? Isko, usko, Kisco, right? What is Kisco? Here K stands for keyword. I stands for identifier. Identifier. S stands for string. C stands for, actually we have two S, right? So we'll say string and special characters. And we have constants. And O stands for, any guesses? O stands for?
Operators.
Exactly, operators. Good. So if you look at any program in the world using any language, whether it's a C, C++, Python, .NET, PHP, Java, any program in the world is made up of the 6 things, nothing more than this. And as I told you, programming language, the syntax are the language rules. If we are once clear with the problem solving skills, you are clear how to go step by step, you can learn any programming language in the world, because it's a basically combination of all these 6 things. You have to just know what are the things which are there in this programming language. Keyword, reserved word of library. Identifier, names given to array, variable, class, structure, anything which, or method or a function name, all these are called the identifiers. Strings, we are writing system.out.println, then parenthesis, double quote, enter your name. So enter your name is a string. Special characters, we know that in a C and C++ we have written hash include. So hash is the special character. Similar way, every Java and C and C++ programming statement ends with the semicolon. So semicolon is a special character. Fine. Similar way, we have constants. As I said, area is equal to 3.14. So 3.14 is the constant value, the value which is not going to change throughout the program. And operators, we have learned there are 7 types of operators in C. Yes or no? So every language is having those operators. Can you list out operators of C? Because it's there in the Java also. Types of operators.
Assign operator.
Sorry?
Assign operator.
Assignment operators, which is used to assign the value. So we call it equal, right? And we in C we were having plus equal also. Minus equal. Do you know what does it mean? When I say A plus equal 5, what does it mean? It means that add 5 to the existing value of variable A. If A's value is 100, it will make it 105 after this execution. The second one is relational. Relational are which? Relational operators are which operators?
Greater than or less
Yeah, only those
Right
less
hand
than,
side or
to
left
equal
hand
to.
side,
greater than, less than,
and equals to
equal,
also.
greater than, equal, then
Not
we'll
equal.
equal, equal, and not equal. These are the relational operators. Then third one is the logical. Which are the logical operators?
And or not.
Exactly. And we have, which is used to combine two relational expression, right? We do that, right? Yes or no? And or and not. The fourth one is method
Arithmetic.
arithmetic. Can you give me some example? Arithmetic. Plus,
Plus
minus,
minus.
multiplication, division, and
Modulus.
Mod.
mod. Yes, exactly. Then
Increment, decrement.
we call it as an
Decrement.
iterative, right? Iterative operators. Plus, plus, and minus, minus. And it is having the category pre-increment. I hope you are aware. Plus, plus, A.
Yes.
And post-increment. A plus plus. There is difference, right? Similar way we have pre-decrement and post-decrement, minus minus A and A minus minus, right? So these are the few increment and decrement operators. Seventh one,
Bitwise.
exactly. Bit. What it does?
Bitwise.
Bitwise. This very few people are aware. Try to run it, right? The symbols are and, or, and not. What it does, when you have a variable, let us say you are having the value 8 inside a variable, right? And if you are going to apply some what I say, bitwise operator, what it will do, it will convert this integer into bit, right? And then it will apply the operation. For example, if you are doing a and 2, right? If you have taken integer b equal to a and 2. So what it will do? We know that 8 binary is, we are just considering 4 digit. Right? This is for 2. So it will apply. You have learned the truth tables in digital electronics, right? And operator over there. Similar way we have and, or, and not operators, right? Which is used to complement. So if you want to apply the operation at the bit levels, we are having bitwise operators. Fine. So I was talking about tokens. We say the smallest individual unit of a program is known as tokens. And when I say tokens, I can remember it with KISS CO, right? Keywords, identifiers, strings, special characters, constants, and operators, right? And if I say about the identifiers in Java, what is identifier? As I gave you the definition, identifiers are the names given to your variables, methods, classes, packages, and interfaces. Anywhere where you are giving a name, it becomes an identifier, right? So unlike literal, they are not the things themselves, they are just way to refer them, right? Literals means string which are taken as it is. For example, system.out.println, enter your name. So enter your name is string literal, right? It is having certain meaning. But when I say identifiers, they have certain fixed meaning given to them, right? They have certain fixed name given to them. For example, if I consider our Hello World program, in Hello World, we had Hello World as an identifier because it was our program name. Then we, as well our class name. Then we were having string, right? We were having args because we were having that line, right? Public static void main string args. So string is a keyword, right? It is having certain fixed meaning in Java. Args, again, the argument name, whether it's a variable name. Main, having the special method in Java. Println, which is method again to print something on the output console. So these are the identifiers. And there are certain rules to give the name, which somebody is saying repeatedly from so many minutes. Who is that? I can't read the chat right now. Yeah, somebody was telling naming rules. So these are the naming rules. So there are general rules for constructing the identifier names or the variables, such as this name must contain letters, digits, underscore, and dollar sign. This was same in your C also. Name must begin with a letter and it cannot contain any white space. It cannot contain any white space, right? Name can also begin with dollar and underscore sign. What does it mean? What does it mean? These two lines together means that a variable name or an identifier name cannot be started with a digit. You see that? It says name can contain letters, digits, underscore, and dollar sign. Then it is saying that it should begin with the letter and it should not contain the white space. For example, if I say roll number, roll space number, not allowed. It should not contain the white space. Okay, and it must begin with the letter. As well, we are saying it can begin with dollar and underscore. So I can give a variable name which is dollar name. I can give a variable name string underscore name. I can give this, but I cannot give string one name, but I can give string name one. It cannot start with the digit. Okay, names are case sensitive. For example, my V capital where, my where, and everything in small my where are different variables because identifier names are case sensitive in Java. And reserved words cannot be used as an identifier's name. For example, I cannot create a variable named as a string. I cannot declare integer string. I can declare integer A because A is not the reserved word. But when I'm saying integer string, we know string is a reserved word. We cannot declare a variable or identifier with the reserved word. Is it clear? Okay. Oh God, I'm running out of time. So let us stop over here. Let us stop over here. Please remind me when I'm moving out of time. So that's it for today. If you're having any question, any doubt, you can ask your queries. Anyone? Anyone? What we learned today? We learned 3 ways to take input in Java. Right? Scanner class, buffer reader class, and console class. And we have seen the demo. And then we clear what is identifier. Right? We clear what is token. Smallest individual unit of a program. And then we discuss all the tokens. Kisco, keyword identifier, special characters, string, constant, and operators. So that was the learning outcome of today's session. If you're having any question, then you can raise a query now. Otherwise, I'll just stop the discussion. As well, we discussed the naming rules of identifier. This was the learning outcome. Okay. Okay, so everybody saying clear. So that's it for today.